My name is Min Su, and I've never believed in ghosts, at least. Not until that night in Gongju. It happened in 2017. I was visiting my grandfather's hometown during Chuseok, the Korean Harvest Festival. Gongju is a small, quiet city with moss-covered temples and narrow alleys that always seem to whisper. It's peaceful, but something about it feels like it remembers things too well. I was staying with my cousin Jiho, who grew up there. On the second night of my visit, we were drinking soju in his room when I brought up urban legends. Jiho went pale. "You've heard of Gongju General, right?" he asked. I hadn't. He explained that it was an old hospital, closed after a fire in 1998. The rumors? A nurse named So-yun died trying to save patients. Her body was never found. Since then, locals claimed she never left. Of course I laughed. Jiho didn't. There are kids who went in and came back different, he said, pouring another shot. And some didn't come back at all. That's how dumb ideas start, with too much soju and too much curiosity. The next night, we walked to the edge of town where Gongju General stood like a burned-out carcass of concrete and steel. Vines had swallowed most of it. Its windows were shattered. Rusted four stands lay in the grass like tombstones. Jiho handed me a flashlight and a crappy old camcorder from his dad's attic. "If you see her," he said, only half joking, "don't talk. Just run." I shrugged it off, but the second we stepped inside, the air changed. It was like walking underwater. My ears popped. Everything felt distant, as if the building itself were still breathing in the smoke from the fire. The lobby was a mess. Ceilings collapsed. Old wheelchairs flipped on their sides. But what struck me was the smell. Not rot, not mold. It smelled like antiseptic and burnt hair. We moved slowly through the main hallway. Most rooms were empty, but charred. Black walls, sooty ceilings, half-melted charts still pinned to the walls. Then we reached the pediatrics ward. There were tiny beds, some still made, dolls with missing eyes, crayons melted to the floor. And that's when I heard it. A gurney, rolling down the hallway behind us. We turned, nothing. But the sound had been real. Jiho looked terrified. We decided to head up to the third floor, where the burn unit used to be. According to local lore, that's where Nurse So-yun was last seen. We reached the stairwell. The steps were cracked, littered with broken tiles. But halfway up, our flashlights died simultaneously. Total darkness. Jiho panicked and turned back. I followed, but tripped over something. No, someone. A woman. She stood at the top of the stairs. Her face was turned toward the wall. She wore a white nurse uniform stained yellow and brown. Her hair was burned in patches. Skin on her arms flaked off like black paper. She didn't speak. Then, without turning, she whispered, "You shouldn't be out of your room." I ran. I don't remember screaming, but my throat burned. Jiho had already bolted. I reached the second floor hallway, disoriented. Turned right when I should have turned left. That was my second mistake. I ended up in the burn ward. It was colder there. The air was sterile and quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that screams in your ears. The beds still had charred bodies in them. I froze. My brain couldn't make sense of it. I knew they couldn't be real, just fire damaged. Mannequins maybe, but then one of them blinked. Another gurgled. The skin on its chest bubbled. They were alive. And all at once, every bed's occupant turned their heads toward me. Then I heard it again. High heels, walking slowly behind me. I turned. She was there, closer now. Her face fully visible. lips charred black, skin like melting wax, one eye sagging, the other wide open, bloodshot and furious. She raised one hand, and her fingers twitched like they were picking up a syringe. And then she smiled. "Time for your injection." I screamed and backed away. I slammed into a metal tray stand, knocking it over, and the sound echoed like thunder through the ward. The nurse blinked and started to move toward me. Not walking, gliding. I don't know how I made it out. The next thing I remember, I was on the grass outside, vomiting. Jiho was shaking me, crying, his face pale. "You were gone for 20 minutes, he said. "I thought you were dead." I looked down. My shirt was soaked in some sticky black fluid. I still don't know what it was. Back at his house, we played the footage on his laptop. Most of it was grainy, static-filled, but around the 18-minute mark, you could see me in the burn ward. In the far corner of the frame, there was something moving, a figure in white. She drifted closer and looked straight into the camera. She smiled and whispered, almost inaudibly, "Do you want to stay with me forever?" Then the screen glitched and the feed cut out. We deleted the footage, burned the camcorder. We didn't want any part of it left. Months later, I did some research. Gongju General was built on the ruins of a Japanese infirmary from the occupation era. Hundreds died there during a typhoid outbreak in 1932. Rumor says that even back then, patients saw the same woman in white, administering injections to corpses. Was Nurse Soyen real? Maybe. But the entity inside Gongju General? That wasn't just a nurse. And sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear click. Click, click outside my door, especially when it rains. I haven't been back to Gongju since, and I never will. My name is Park Dae-hyun, and I served my mandatory military service in South Korea from 2012 to 2014. Like every young man, I wasn't excited about enlistment, but I told myself it would be routine, drills, patrols, and maybe some boring guard duty. I was wrong. I was assigned to a base near the demilitarized zone, DMZ, the buffer strip separating North and South Korea. The location was remote, surrounded by dense forests and silence that felt too thick to be natural. My unit's barracks had been used since the 1970s, and the building looked like it. The floorboards creaked constantly, the windows rattled in the wind, and the walls carried a scent of age, rust, and something else I couldn't place. Something metallic and sour. From the moment I arrived, I knew something was off. On my first day, an older corporal named Jun Sung pulled me aside. "Whatever you do," he said, "never sleep in the last bunk by the east window." I laughed. "Why?" He looked at me, dead serious. "Just don't. That bed belongs to someone who never left." I thought it was hazing or a dumb ghost story. You hear that stuff in the army all the time. Still, I noticed something strange. Everyone avoided that bunk. It was neatly made, untouched, like it was reserved for someone who might come back any day. But no nameplate, no belongings, just silence. 3 weeks into service, I drew night guard duty, too. a.m. to 4 a.m. Patrol around the perimeter and building halls. I was already exhausted. The night was biting cold, and snowflakes drifted like ash. Most of the compound was dark, except for the hallway lights inside the barracks. When I came in to grab my gloves, I found Private Sungmin pacing, pale and sweating. "You okay?" I asked. He hesitated. "Switch shifts with me tonight," he said. "Please." I agreed, thinking he just wanted extra rest. So that night, I took Sungmin's bunk, the last one, by the east-facing window. It was 3:14 a.m. when I woke up. At first, I thought it was a dream. A faint noise. Footsteps. Military boots on linoleum floor. Coming down the hallway, slow and heavy. I sat up, heart racing. Maybe it was the sergeant doing rounds? But when I looked at the door, it was closed. And the footsteps stopped. Right outside. I held my breath. Then I heard something worse. Knocking on the window. Not loud. Just a gentle tap. Which didn't make sense. I was on the second floor. I hesitated, then turned toward the window. Outside, under the weak moonlight, I saw a face. Frozen. Purple lips. Bloodshot eyes wide open. A soldier's uniform. It was a man, just standing outside the second floor window, staring in. And he started mouthing something. I couldn't hear him, but his lips moved slowly. Let me in. My blood ran cold. I yanked the curtain shut, heart hammering. Then the knocking grew louder, more urgent, like he was slapping the glass. Thump, thump, thump. I leapt from the bed and ran to the hallway. But the second I opened the door, the hallway was empty. The footsteps were gone. The knocking stopped. But I swear I heard a whisper behind me, like a breath. Why didn't you open the door? The next morning, I didn't tell anyone. I thought maybe it was a hallucination. Sleep paralysis. Exhaustion. But Sungmin avoided eye contact with me at breakfast. Later that week, he quietly told me the truth. That bunk belonged to Corporal Jae-hwan. He was shot during a DMZ infiltration 10 years ago. He was on patrol when he got separated from his team. He was injured but alive. Crawled all the way back to base. He knocked on that window, trying to wake the others. But no one heard him. He paused. By the time someone checked the grounds in the morning, his body was frozen solid, kneeling by the wall under that window, with his hands still raised. I felt sick. So why is he still there? I asked. Sungmin shook his head. Because the army never marked his death officially. He wasn't reported dead until a week later. Some say he's still doing his rounds. A few nights later, I was alone again on guard duty. This time, I made sure to avoid that damn bed. But while walking the hallway past the east wing, I saw something that chilled me to my core. The lights above flickered, and for a split second, I saw him. A soldier in full winter fatigues. Standing, still, at the end of the hallway. Helmet on, eyes hollow. His uniform was drenched. Frost clung to his shoulders. Blood trickled down his neck. And he was holding something. A rusted dog tag. He looked up at me and raised his hand slowly, like a salute. The hallway lights went dark. I ran. I don't care how cowardly it sounds. I sprinted back to the main office, locked the door, and sat against it till morning. No one believed me. They said the cold was getting to me. But I knew better. I started carrying my phone on night shifts and recording voice memos. I even set up a motion sensor camera near the east window. Most nights, nothing. But on January 13th at exactly 3:14 a.m., the camera caught something. For 8 seconds, the sensor tripped. In the footage, you can see mist forming on the inside of the window, not outside. A breath mark. Then the window shook slightly. And faintly, you can hear tapping. Then, a whisper caught in the audio. I'm still on duty. We never shared it with the officers, because we knew they already knew. When I was discharged in 2014, I didn't look back once. But I can't forget those 2 months at the DMZ. I still have nightmares. I still wake up at 3:14 a.m. drenched in sweat, hearing boots outside my apartment door. Sometimes I even hear a window knock. And one time, I found a smudge on the glass, a frosty handprint. I live alone. I never saw Sungmin again after discharge. He never answered messages. But a mutual friend told me he requested a transfer to a southern base in Busan and refused to talk about his time near the DMZ. I don't blame him. Some say the war never ended. I think they're right. But for Corporal Jae-hwan, it truly never ended. Because every night, at 3:14 a.m., somewhere in that base, a forgotten soldier still knocks, hoping someone will finally let him in. My name is Yuna, and I'm writing this because I need someone to believe me. What happened to me during my university years wasn't a dream or a breakdown. I wish it was, but it was real, and I don't think I'll ever recover. In 2016, I got accepted into a top university in Seoul. It was everything I wanted: freedom, city life, a bright future. As a scholarship student, I was given on-campus housing. Dormitory Building C, room 313. From the very first night, I knew something was wrong. Room 313 was at the very end of the hall on the third floor. The lighting outside my door flickered constantly. My room was unusually cold, even in summer. It had a single bed, a desk, and a built-in wardrobe that creaked like it was holding a secret. During orientation week, I tried making friends. When I told a group of girls where I lived, they exchanged glances. "You're in 313?" One of them asked. "I thought they locked that room up years ago." Another girl whispered, "Someone died there. A girl. She went missing, and they found her in the walls." I laughed it off. Urban legend stuff. Every campus has their ghost stories, right? Except no one would visit me. And when I invited people over, they always had excuses. Eventually, I stopped trying. On the third night, I was reading at my desk when I heard it. Scratching. Soft, rhythmic. Coming from inside the wardrobe. I froze. It continued. Scratch, scratch. Like fingernails dragging slowly across wood. I opened the doors. Nothing. Just my clothes swaying as if touched. That night, the scratching returned, louder. I moved my bed to the other side of the room. Then, I started waking up at exactly 4:13 a.m. every night. No dreams, just a choking feeling, like someone standing over me, breathing in my face. A week later, I noticed something strange. The wall behind my desk was hollow. When I tapped it, it echoed differently from the others. One day, I leaned against it while studying and heard whispering, faint, like a girl crying on the other side. I put my ear closer, and I heard a voice say, "Help me. I'm still here." I jerked back so hard I knocked over my chair. I ran downstairs to the security office, told them someone might be trapped in the wall. The guard, a middle-aged man, stared at me for a long time. Then he sighed. "You should ask for a transfer." He refused to check the wall. I begged. He said, "That room was supposed to stay locked." The girl from 313. She was never officially found. The next day, I searched online for dorm 313 missing girl Seoul. Nothing came up, like it had been erased. I went back to my room and tried clearing the dust off the top of the wardrobe. That's when I saw it. scratched faintly into the wooden surface. Hannah, all caps, repeated over and over. Deep gashes like someone used their nails. 100 times. 1,000. That night, I dreamed of her. A girl with long black hair and bloodless lips, standing inside the wall, crying. Her nails were cracked and broken, her eyes hollow. She said nothing, but she pointed to the wardrobe. When I woke up, my closet doors were wide open. Terrified, I started checking every inch of the room. Behind the wardrobe, there was a vent taped shut. The tape was old and yellowed, like it had been there for years. I ripped it off. Inside was a narrow crawl space, just wide enough for a small person. The air that came out smelled like iron and rot. I shoved my phone inside and took a picture. When I checked it, I dropped the phone. There, half lit by flash, was a girl curled up in the corner, her face hidden in her arms, her skin pale gray. But the worst part? She was smiling. I went to the student affairs office, begged for a room transfer. They said the dorms were full. I told them what I saw. The administrator frowned. Room 313 hasn't been occupied in years, she said. I live there now, I snapped. She looked confused. She checked her files. You've been registered in room 312, not 313. I demanded to be taken to the building. We climbed the stairs. I pointed at my room. The door said 313, but when she opened it, it was empty, covered in plastic sheets. Dusty. Abandoned. My stuff was gone. Gone. There was no bed, no wardrobe, no sign anyone had lived there in years. I collapsed. A janitor found me crying in the hallway. An old man who had worked there for decades. She took you, didn't she? He asked. Hannah. I nodded. She was a freshman. Quiet. Bullied. She stopped leaving her room. People said she was strange. Then one day, she vanished. Police thought she ran away. He paused. But one night, another girl heard crying in the walls. They broke it open. His voice cracked. They found her bones in the crawl space. Her fingernails were torn off. She had carved her own name hundreds of times, waiting to be found. Campus police found me 2 hours later, in room 313, curled up inside the wardrobe, my fingernails bloodied, scratching the back panel. I don't remember doing it, but I kept saying the same word over and over. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. My parents pulled me out of school. It's been 8 years. I still don't sleep without the lights on. I live in Busan now, far from Seoul. But sometimes, at 4:13 a.m., I wake up gasping. I check the walls. I check the wardrobe. I check the vents. But sometimes I still hear it, followed by a girl's voice. There's space for one more. I don't tell anyone anymore. Who would believe me? But if you're reading this, never stay in dorm 313, because once you live there, you might never leave.